Good morning and welcome to Intellectual Discourse 2022, brought to you live by IPG Campus Bahasa Antarabangsa. How is everybody? Hope all of you are fine. Okay, we are here again meeting for the third time on our annual ELT Journal article contributions. And today you would have six bright presenters who would be speaking to you about their presentations. Okay, each presentation would be for about 20 minutes and we will give you 5 minutes for question and answer session. So, okay, folks, you would also be given a certificate for being in this intellectual discourse. Kindly wait for the link that will be shared, and you can actually fill in the form so that you will get your certificate at the end of the session. Okay, without wasting any more time, let us now welcome the first presenter, Dr. Premalata Nair, with her title, When Off-Screen Becomes On-Screen, Challenges Faced by Student Teachers in Teaching Online Lessons. Dr. Prema, the platform is yours.
Thank you very much, Puan Irene. And welcome everyone to this episode organized by the English Language Department. And may I say, Puan Irene, you look very lovely today.
Thank you. You
All
too.
right. Thank you. Okay, let me just share the slide first. Hopefully this works. All right. Okay. Welcome everyone. The title of my research, which I carried out last year, is actually When Off-Screen Becomes On-Screen, Challenges Faced by Student Teachers in Teaching Online Lessons. As we all know, during the pandemic, most of our trainee teachers, those who were stuck during that period of time, they had to do their practicum online. And there were a lot of challenges that they faced, although I can say that they did learn technology when they were in the teacher training institution. And I think it was, in fact, one of the courses, but I think none of us were prepared during the pandemic era. So it just came suddenly, and then we were like taken aback, and all of us really like had to go back and then figure out what would be the best way of teaching our students. So that was one of the reasons why that inspired me to look into this study. All right. So sorry, if we look at this from offline to online, as I mentioned just now, there were great challenges, not only to our student teachers, but also to teachers in general. So they were sort of like cripple the teaching and learning process. I think for the first few weeks, when all of us were at home, we were sort of like trying to figure out what would be the best way of using technology. Is it Google Classroom or Telegram? And what about places, especially in rural areas, where they do not have these tools to teach their students? So here I can say that not all teachers were actually prepared to shift to online mode. And most of them were under pressure. So it's more like to sink or to swim, it's like either you make it or you do not make it. All right. So and also a study by Tome in 2006 has indicated that online teaching actually demand a minimum of 40% more time than face-to-face teaching. So what she actually tried to emphasize, and I do really believe in it, is that when you are teaching face-to-face, the duration of preparation is lesser compared to when you're actually using online mode to teach. So the demand for using the appropriate tools, selecting the appropriate tools, and then preparing materials takes more. Here, Tome mentioned more in terms of percentage, that is 14% more. And I do agree with her. Yeah. So based on the research that I actually carried out, there were two research questions that I was looking into. The first one would be, what are the types of online tools used by the participants in the language classroom? And the second would be, what are the challenges faced by these participants when dealing with students during online teaching and learning process? Okay. So if you look at the participants, I had 8 student teachers who were under me during the practicum stint. So these student teachers actually went through a 12-week practicum course, and all of them were in East Malaysia. So they when they were in their hometown, so there were a lot of challenges that they faced, and I wanted to know what were the challenges that they actually faced when they were teaching in the classroom, and whether they had a hard time to discover the appropriate online teaching tools. So that was what I was interested in. And if you look at the participants' background, you can see that the type of schools that they were in, all right, there were quite a few who were in the rural school, and the others were in the urban school. Yeah. So the classes that they were teaching varied. So as you can see, in the slide, and the mode of delivery, all were doing online except for one participant. She actually had both online and face-to-face mode, because the area that she was in was did not have issue with COVID. It was actually a very small place, small town, where she was doing her practicum. But towards the end, she did go online mode, because I think most of the parents were afraid, all right, because during the pandemic, and they didn't want to send their kids to school. So therefore, she had to do online classes towards the end. Yeah. And as you can see, 25% of my participants were teaching in the rural area, whereas 75% were in the urban area. Okay. So the instruments that I used for this study, there were two. First were online questionnaire, and second, of course, the interview. So both were actually done online. The interview session were actually done using Google Meet. Okay, so that was much more convenient at that point of time. All right, and I think even until today, now when we are thinking about research, we are looking at these online tools, yeah, to carry out our research. Okay, so based on the finding, yeah, the types of tools used by these student teachers, if you can see, number one, the quite famous tool used were the Jamboard. Okay, so this is based on the questionnaire that was given. So most of the students use Jamboard when they were teaching online with their student, and they find that it was much more easier, and also the students were more interested. Okay, they were more active when Jamboard was used in the classroom. And the second one was actually Lookout. Okay, so that one, including quizzes, is also, I think, the top three actually: Jamboard, Bluecut, and quizzes. Many of them did use this. Most probably because it's free. All right, anybody can get access to it. It's just that you need to spend time to actually learn how to use this. All right. And then you have Mentimeter. I don't know if many of us have heard it. When I first did this study, I was looking Mentimeter. Okay, first time hearing it. All right. And then you have Word Wall, which now I think even during practicum, many student teachers are using this if there is a smart board in the classroom. All right. And then YouTube is very famous. Most of us do use YouTube. All right. And then you have live worksheet and also Google Slides. Okay, so these are the most I would say the top few important tools used by these 8 student teachers. Okay, I'm sure there are many more, but this is what I found. All right, so now when it comes to the challenges faced by these teachers when teaching online, there were a few. All right. I could not play the animation here, so it will overlap, but I can read one by one. Okay. There are 4 teams that I identified when I interviewed them. The first challenge would be engaging students during lessons. Okay. One student teacher actually mentioned that most of the time when they are going online, okay, some of them did use Google Classroom. The student teachers actually would the students, the pupils in the classroom would off their video. All right. So that happens to be a great challenge. And I also do face that when I'm teaching my student teachers in IPG. All right. Most of them like to off their video because they find it very convenient. Yeah. Don't have to dress up, just wake up, from the bed, and then they on their laptop and then lecture starts. So for these students, pupils in back in their home, when the teacher our student teacher asks them to, can you on your video? They will give lots of excuses. They say, oh, my video is not working, you know, it's faulty, or I don't have video. All right, I can see you, but I cannot show my face. So that was one of the challenges the student teachers mentioned. Yeah, and sometimes they also do not on their microphone. When the teacher asks questions, the students will keep quiet. So they have to ask, okay, can you on your audio microphone and answer my question? And they will text. All right, you see, my microphone is not working, all right, or something is wrong, all right. So it is like an easy getaway from being caught to answer questions, all right. So these were some of the challenges they face, all right, engaging students during lesson. And the second one would be challenging to introduce new online tools in the lesson. As I mentioned earlier, the pandemic just came in like that unannounced, and all of us, had to pack and leave and start teaching at home. So similar case for the student teachers. They actually did struggle to search for the appropriate online teaching tools, and when they find one, and the challenge would be introducing that tool on how to use these tools to their students. Okay. So that would be a challenge. Sometimes they did mention that it would take about one lesson to actually convince their pupils and show them how to use particular tools. All right. And then after that, the next day, a few of the pupils may forget how to log in or use that particular tool or answer their worksheet. Okay. So that these are few of the challenges that our student teachers face. All right. And then even while the process of explaining the online tools to be used, it takes time. All right. So it takes a lot of time, and sometimes the student teachers feel frustrated, and the pupils as well. It's just like when we are not familiar with learn using a new technological tools. If you're not able to use it, like just now when I was going into StreamYard, I've not used it for a long time. I was wondering whether the PowerPoint is going to work. Okay, what happens if I can't show you my slides? Okay, what can I do? So that runs in your mind. Okay, so it can be frustration. You get frustrated, and then you'll be thinking, oh my God, this is very difficult. So I wouldn't be surprised that many teachers did go through all this, frustration. All right. And then the next one would be accessibility to online tools. All right. So they did mention that certain schools are not equipped with internet lines. And then even if they have internet lines, it is not strong enough for them to use particular tools. That is challenging enough. And what about the pupils at home? Not all of them have internet access, and sometimes it's a bit difficult. Sometimes I think our student teacher did resort to using Telegram because pupils have to use their parents' handphone, in order to, you know, uh, go through the lesson every day. So these are a few of the challenges that both student teachers and pupils face. All right. The online website is actually very crucial. And then poor participation. Because of all the issues from first, second, and third, most of the student teachers did complain that it is very difficult to get their pupils to participate in most of the activities that they carry out. Okay, because sometimes it can be one-way interaction. It's the teacher who's talking a lot, and you're not sure whether the pupils at home are listening or not, because the video is off, and we do not know whether they are there listening to you, because that is the great challenge at that point of time. you know uh, Similarly, as how I'm talking to you now, I'm not sure who is listening because I can't see you. Sometimes it could be a challenge on my part. I was thinking like, am I saying what am I supposed to say? I don't see your reaction. I do not know what I'm saying is right or wrong. And then is my slides moving? Whether you're able to view what I'm trying to show to you. So all this can lead to frustration. All right. And also, most importantly, my participant did mention that certain tools, online tools, they are quite useful for their pupils in the classroom, They wanted to use it. Unfortunately, you had to pay. You have to buy the online tools or subscribe to it. So that is a bit costly for the student teachers. But surprisingly, one or two of them did spend money to buy these online tools because they actually very much wanted to deliver the best to their pupils, and that to me I find that quite interesting to find the extent that these student teachers would go in order to make the lesson more interesting for their pupils. All right. And poor participation also, one of the reason to that could be homework. All right. Providing homework to the students is actually quite challenging. All right. Not everybody will end up doing the homework because it's, when you give it online and then they have to um, either answer it in the exercise book, and then they have to screenshot their work and then submit to the teacher. So the work, that to do the homework and submit to the teacher is also taxing for them, and then this would lead to tiredness, because there's so many things to do. Not like getting into the classroom, listen to the teacher, do group work with friends, and then submitting the exercise books, and then the teacher would mark and then return back to the student, and then they can see where they are wrong or what right, what was right with their work. But online, it doesn't work that way, unless they have good internet and also tools, laptop. Otherwise, it's very difficult to get even input from the teacher. Okay. So these are some of the challenges that these student teachers face when they were doing their practicum online. Yeah. Okay. So I also asked a question on the types of language skills that they find easy to teach online. Okay, between the four skills: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. The top 60%, most of them say writing skill is the easiest when they were dealing with their pupils online, followed by reading 40%. I think this to a certain extent makes sense, all right, because of the issues that I mentioned just now, that the pupils do not like to communicate, they like to text. But even when they are texting, I would consider that as looking into the writing skill. So when they're writing something, texting online or to their teacher, they are actually tapping into the writing skill. So that's why I see that 60% of them say that writing skill is easier to teach online. Reading would be the next one. All right. But listening and speaking, all right, unless they speak, it is difficult to know whether they are listening, right? So that I think was the most challenging skills the student teachers found, when they were teaching online. So some of the comments that the respondents made, they said most students were viewed as very typing oriented, where they would prefer to type their answers out rather than speaking through the microphone orally. All right. And then they also claim that their students were very good at identifying specific information from text, and it was much easier to assess when pupils were asked to fill in quizzes after reading the text. Okay. And also the third one, reading activity was seen easier, and it was described as rarely goes wrong. So that's the reason why we can see that these two skills are preferred. All right. Or they found it easier to teach online. Okay. So writing skill, there are many comments made by the participants. They say there are many online interactive tools for writing, so it was not a difficult thing for them to allow their pupils to write. Okay, and then the availability of various online tools, and then to mark their work, it was actually easier. Okay, so therefore writing is much more preferred by the student teachers. So it's not that difficult to mark, all right? And it also allowed participants to write sentences and ask the pupils to correct their mistakes. Okay, that was easier for them. And the chat box seems to be quite famous at that point of time. They say this is one feature that actually make writing easy for pupils. All right. Remember earlier I mentioned they don't like to speak. They mute themselves. So the only mode of communication is through using the chat box and writing something. So that becomes easier. All right, in that sense. So the word cloud feature is another tool that can be used to engage the pupils in activity that contribute their ideas to class discussion. So that was also tried out and they found it worked very well. And participants claim that it takes less time to assess their writing skill compared to speaking skill. Yeah. So I would agree to a certain extent that it's easier for them to actually mark the writing activity rather than speaking. Yeah. And furthermore, there were few pupils who were reluctant to speak in class, and these pupils preferred to voice out their thoughts through writing. All right. So I wouldn't be surprised during the 2 years or so, perhaps the pupils' writing skills would have improved, all right, to a certain extent. All right. So that would be interesting to look into. Okay. All right. So most difficult skill to teach online, all eight of them mentioned speaking. 100% of them say speaking is very difficult, right, to actually carry it out during online lessons because majority of the students feel quite shy and would struggle to open their microphone. And then they difficult to get their students to speak via Google Meet due to the time constraint at times, technical problems, all right, and internet connection problems. So this all these commonly occur, when we ask why, all right. And then pupils are encouraged to record their speaking skill based on certain topics that is being taught, but some of them will not do it as they didn't want to or didn't know how to do it. All right. So if they are not able to participate online, when the student teacher call on their names and ask them to speak, another option given was, okay, why don't you record case on based on whatever topic that is taught. But even that is a bit challenging because maybe a few of them do not know how to record, or they didn't want to do it. Okay. And uh, and some pupils just went missing in action when their names were called. I think most lecturers, especially my student teachers, are actually in front of me now. Okay, because I'm halfway giving my lecture and I have to stop for this webinar. And they are actually laughing and smiling when I mention this. So I think it is definitely true enough. You know, they sometimes do go missing in action. When you're giving lecture online, you only see the names and their photo, but okay, in person, I don't know where they are. So when you call their name, it takes some time before they come back and answer. Oh, yes, ma'am, I just went to the washroom for a while. That's the common answer given. So what more when it comes to pupils in the school, you know? So that I would agree. And then one of the reasons contributing to this is due to the low proficiency level. Those who are reluctant to speak, definitely one of the challenges would be their proficiency level. So they feel shy to record, all right, or even speak because everybody will be listening, all right. So these students are worried in case they say something wrong or something that is incomprehensible, which will lead to, them be the joke in the class. They don't like their friends laughing at them. So that could be one of the reasons. And there are also times when pupils took a long time to respond after being called or even choose not to answer. Okay. So I think I've given that reason earlier. All right. So to conclude, what I can say about this study is that many teachers in general resort to find the best possible ways to reach out to their students. I think throughout the 2 years or so, I think most of us tried our level best uh, to get to our students, to engage them in the classroom, to find the best possible tools that can carry out strategies and activities that we have planned uh, to benefit our students, right? But technology may not work all the time. Okay. There are times when we get frustrated. We are not able to actually use certain tools. Sometimes, no internet line. Sometimes the other side, okay, you might be fine, but your students might appear and disappear at times. And that can actually frustrate teachers. Okay. Like you are talking and then suddenly you have to repeat what you are saying because the students, it's not their fault in a way, but it's because of the internet lines, right? So one moment they're there, the next moment they're not there. It's just like the chickmore cookies, right? Okay. Now you see, now you don't. All right. So These lead for teachers to have a greater adjustment. They need to make a lot of adjustment in their teaching and learning processes, and also patience. I would say uh, teachers actually at that point of time would say needed to be very, very patient with whatever they were doing, so that sometimes, they may have to repeat their lessons, so that at least their students would actually get what they are supposed to gain from the lesson. All right. And also the need for flexibility. We went 100% online at that point of time. After 2.5 years or so, today we are now back to our classroom, to our lecture hall. I think that there's a void, there is a gap that I can say, where suddenly you find it a bit difficult to move from online to offline. Earlier was from offline to online. Now the challenge is reverse, the other way around. I think my student teachers, especially when I went for practicum recently, many of them are so comfortable using the smart board. They use a lot of online tools. But when we ask them, okay, what happened in the classroom? Okay, they sort of struggle a bit. They find it, oh, all right. It is now a bit of a challenge to reverse back. They say, why not we use technology? Why not do online? Okay, throughout. Although now we are back into the classroom. But what I personally would fear is that the human touch, the teacher-student interaction would disappear, based on the issues that I highlighted earlier. All right. Sometimes the students may not be engaged online throughout. So there is a need for face-to-face interaction. At least 60% and 40% can be online. So I mean that's how I view, all right. The from offline to online and from online to online. Yeah. So I think that's about it about my research, although it is a small research that I carried out, but it actually given a great impact on me, especially when I'm looking at how our student teachers actually, they are very good. They are actually resourceful in finding the right appropriate online tools to teach, but at the same time also quite challenging when dealing with their pupils in the classroom. So with that, I thank you. Back to you, Ponairi.
Okay, very interesting sharing, Dr. Prema. You
Thank you
always
very
come up with
much.
very interesting titles. Yeah, exactly
I mean,
what we all also went through, right? I think
true.
if your students are listening now, let them know that we also went through all the same things that the pupils in the classroom were also
Yeah,
going
they're
through.
smiling now. They're saying, yeah, correct.
Ah,
And guilty as well.
especially, yeah, exactly. Going missing, and then saying that, oh, I was away at the washroom, because we can see they are all logged in, but yet when we call them to actually give their response, then they are not there, not available.
Missing, missing in
And
action.
yeah, yeah, missing in action. Okay, I don't actually see any questions, but I would like to ask you one. Okay,
Sure.
yeah. Dr. Prema, actually, you have done. You are looking at all the issues that they all faced. All right. Okay. What about you continuing on the same mode, but this time you want to find out if there were any innovations done by our student teachers while they were at
Oh,
it, maybe in the next ELT journal
thank
for
you
the
so
next
much
presentation.
for that question. You know what? Because we are actually doing the oral presentation YWA for research at the moment, okay, with this cohort 2019 cohort. Just now,
Yes.
what captured my attention was one of the student teacher actually talk about the sorry, not animal kingdom. What kingdom? Kingdom battle game. I was wondering
Oh,
what that is actually innovation. She was just trying to teach students when do you add s, when do you not add s, for singular and plural. And she came up with this KGB, what, sorry, KBG, sorry, KBG game.
KBG.
She just presented before our webinar, and I was like really impressed. I said, wow, she came up with that idea. And in fact, she tried it in the classroom, and to a certain extent, it worked with certain pupils. So to me,
Mm.
that is
Yeah,
innovation. That is innovation.
exactly.
They
Yeah.
are capable. They are. It's just that we need to tap into their potential. All right, and you never know. Maybe yeah, for next year we will try to get all these innovations coming in, and hopefully can share
Oh,
with the audience. Yeah,
yes. Let me
all
know
right.
about it. I'll be one of the
Oh,
audience.
oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just to inform everybody, Puan Kalaimadi Irene will be retiring soon, and it's going to be a
This
great
week.
loss for ELD department. You know, you're
No,
doing a
no.
very
You have
good job.
very
You know,
you
and
have very
anyway,
good ones as well to replace me. Okay.
anyway, wishing you all
Thank
the
you
best
very
for that.
much.
You're
Thank
most
you very
welcome.
much, Dr. Premalata. Okay, very inspiring. And yeah, I think our students can learn a lot from all these. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have actually exceeded a little bit of time in the first presentation, but never mind. It was a very interesting presentation, and it is all linked to our jobs. Okay, let me remind you again that there would be actually another five more presentations, and my co-presenter today is Dr. Faustina Roberts. She would be handling the moderation from the third after the breaker from the third presentation onwards. So bear with me. Okay, I would now invite Puan Ui Chun Meng. She's already ready there. Puan Ui Chun Meng, the expert for technology and all. Okay, she is going to share with us on her article on insights on material development workshops in preparation for phase 1 and 2 practicum. Okay, Puan Ui, platform is yours. All the best.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Irene. Yes, okay, let me share the slides. Yeah. Okay, where is it? Wait, huh? Yeah, it's still spooling. Yeah, just give me a few, well, maybe 1 minute. Okay, wait. Okay, can you see the slide now? Okay, yeah. Okay, well, a very good morning to everyone. So, I am Ui Chun Meng, okay, from IPG KBA. So, I am presenting on behalf of my team members. So, we have Madam Kalamati Irene George, who is a moderator. Okay, and then Dr. Shamini Ganaguru. Okay, so three of us, we are going to present. I'm going to present, sorry, on insights on material development workshops in preparation for phases 1 and 2 practicum. So now we conducted a workshop. Okay, we conducted a workshop for the students for phases 1 and 2 practicum. Just let me here share with. Okay, I hope you can see. Oh, okay, slide 2, sorry. So a workshop was conducted. So for this phase 1 and phase 2 practicum students, so now for phase 1, that means it is their first time. Their first time they will be going out for their practicum. So and phase 2, they have already done their practicum 1 the previous semester. So now what is the aim? What are the aims of the workshop? So it is to provide additional support and guidance to student teachers. Okay, enroll in the program Ijazah Sarjana Muda Pendidikan Pengajaran Bahasa Inggeris, or we say PISMP students. Okay, these are the TESOL students. So, and also to provide more guidance and support in developing teaching materials. Okay, so now you must be thinking, why do we have to do that? Okay, now if you remember just now the first presenter, Dr. Rema, mentioned that it is there are a few challenges faced. when they are teaching, online and offline. So, from offline to online, there are many challenges actually. So, uh, you see, students are not, they were not well prepared for the online classes. So, but to attend our online classes is different. But for them as teachers, as student teachers, when they are conducting their practicum, it is different. Okay, different in the sense that, the students cannot see them. The students, their pupils, the learners cannot see them and cannot see them physically. So it is different, and the pupils are not there actually most of the time. What Dr. Prema mentioned, students said they went to the toilet, this and that. Actually, they were not there at all. So now let's look at the background. The background of this of the workshop. So it is to give an in-depth input, an in-depth input on the teaching of all the language skills prior to their practicum stint. Okay, this form of input was very useful to prepare them for face-to-face teaching also. So now, due to MCO, they needed to switch to various teaching methods using appropriate tools. Okay, sorry, using appropriate tools and activities that can keep their pupils motivated and participate fully. To be very frank, when we are conducting online classes, students and the pupils, the learners, do not pay much attention. So that means you have to come up with ideas. So how to make pupils, appeal? How do all these activities appeal to the students? Okay, and this we also reach out to the student teachers because they need to know. They need to know how to use technology, and also how to apply digital tools in accordance with the pupils' cognitive level. So that was, the aim of us also to why we came up with this workshop. Okay, so now we conducted this workshop. Okay, so these are the Lisana we gave. So it was two phases because we have two phases of practicum, phase 1 and phase 2, practicum students. So you see, for this practicum, so students, when they go to school, they are assessed on their lesson planning and also their delivery, how they deliver in the class, how their lessons are implemented, as well as their overall involvement in the school. So we are talking about how we assess the students, our student teachers, when they go to school for their practicum. So, and these teachers are posted to primary schools for 12 weeks. Okay. Now, the phase 2 practicum group, there are 181 of them. They went for phase 1 practicum in the previous semester. So during their phase 1 practicum, so it was conducted face to face, okay, till the MCO. So when they were conducting face to face, it was not a problem. It was not a problem, okay. But because of MCO, they had to conduct it online. Okay, they had to conduct it online. So for about a month. Okay, so at least, so this face to face, these phase 2 students, they had the opportunity to experience that 1 month teaching online. So phase 2 practicum students, they had 1 month experience. Now, what about this? Okay, sorry. Now, however, phase 1 students, okay, that was the first time they had their teaching practicum, and they were like in a loss. How to teach online? How to teach online? Okay, so let's look at the workshop content. So what happened was we planned it in such a way where we share with them, okay, sharing. Now, sharing comes from the lecturers, the facilitators. So, myself, okay, and then we have Dr. Shamini and also Madam Irene. Okay, three of us we shared, we conducted the workshop, and then we shared, and also we got the teachers, school teacher. We got one school teacher because she has gone through this teaching online, and we got her to help. us, to share her experience with our students, with the student teachers. So she shared with them on how to teach, how to use apps, digital apps, yeah, and then how to control the classrooms when they are teaching. Okay, and then we have also two students from phase two, who had the experience of conducting 1 month of online teaching to share their experiences with all of them. Now, this is important, especially to phase one practicum students. Okay, so they shared their experiences, and it was it was um, it was a very a good sharing, and it was effective in the sense that the phase one practicum students, they gain a lot of information from them. Okay, for us lecturers, we also give them input on the implementation of the 4 skills. Yeah, listening and speaking, reading and writing. We guided them, and also they have to develop hands-on approach. They have to develop materials, teaching and learning materials, and these are all hands-on. So basically, that is the workshop content. Okay. Now, now after they were given input by us, okay, by the teacher, by the two phase two students, and by the facilitators. So they were given a task. Okay, what is their task now? So they have to work in pairs. They select a language skill. Okay, in pairs they select any language skill, only one language skill. So then they have to prepare a 30-minute lesson, a 30-minute lesson plan. That means consisting of relevant teaching materials. Then they focus on the presentation practice or production stage. So based on that, then they are given 1.5 days to upload to YouTube. So they have to share what they have produced with their friends, okay, via YouTube. So they were given 1.5 days to prepare their work. Then they upload to YouTube. Then after that, all their peers will review their tasks. Okay. So review, and each student commented on at least 4 posts on each skill within 2 days. They were given 2 days, and they have to go through the YouTube shared by their friends, and they have to comment. Okay. Okay, then after that, we facilitators, we made short notes, and we commented on the materials posted on YouTube. So then we get all the students together. Okay, they gathered, and we facilitators and the students provided feedback. So they shared whatever in the class. Okay, all of them they shared, and then they get feedback. Okay, feedback from their friends and the facilitators. Now, so how effective are these? Yeah, how effective? How effective uh, this is this workshop? Okay, so based on okay based wait, okay, now based on the feedback given, okay, they said that it is very effective, and it helped to reinforce key areas in planning and developing online teaching and learning materials. Now, why do we say it's effective? Yeah, so now, what was given to us was, okay, you see, and so this one, based on the analysis, okay, now P1P means phase one practicum, okay, 75 out of the 80 of them responded, and P2P practicum phase two, okay, 152 out of 181 responded. So we use Google Forms to collect the data. Okay, so based on what they have, what they have, what we have collected. So we can see the three main themes. So the benefits of the course, importance of peer support, and the needs of the course participants. Okay, student teachers. Okay, now so what are the benefits? So both phases, okay, both student teachers, both students from the two phases, they found that the course was very timely and helpful. Okay, because at that time, they were in a loss. They did not know what to do. Yeah, they did not know what to do. So at least now, after the workshop, they had they could see the light there. Okay, they got the necessary knowledge and also the pedagogical practices on how to go about it. Okay, now for P1P practicum phase one students, they said that, it was a very positive comment. Okay, very helpful, and it like brought them into the online teaching. Okay, so they learn the mechanics. They learn the mechanics of online teaching and learning, and also help them to develop relevant materials to optimize learning. So now, you see, these students, when all of them, yeah, when they prepared the tasks, the materials, online tasks, so they had to share on YouTube. They shared on YouTube, and they have to comment. So when they comment, before they could comment on their peers' work, so they had to look at the YouTube. They had to watch the YouTube and comment. So from there, they learn. Now, what did they learn? They learn about, for each stage, for example, for the presentation stage, what are the apps they could use? So all the digital apps and how they could go about it. Okay, in conducting their online lesson. Okay, so now both phases, students from both phases found that working collaborative with their peers, okay, because they had to work in pairs. So to complete the assigned task was very significant in terms of their competence as beginner teachers. So now you see, so that's why we always put them in groups or at least in pairs. They learn from each other. Yeah, they share their knowledge and they learn from each other. So with the discussion and collaboration, they feel that this at least elevate their knowledge. Okay, so and this phase two student teachers, okay, they were more inclined to peer discussion and collaborative work. So we must remember that 21st century skills, one of them is collaboration. So collaboration is very important. Yeah, so it's pertinent now that we give them the opportunity. Always make sure they collaborate. At least they were in pairs. Now, so what are the future needs of the participants? So we could put them into three teams. So lesson planning, classroom management, and assessment. Okay, so uh, f- phase two practicum students, they were more specific about their concerns on planning lesson plans. Okay, so they are more on the lesson planning. So how to plan their lesson, because lesson planning is the first step. Okay, if you can't plan a lesson, you can implement your lesson. So you can see lesson planning is important, because lesson planning, when you want to plan your lesson, you need to know, okay, of course, the skills, what you're teaching, what are the major skills, the complementary skills, and then what are the teaching activities. Okay, what are teaching activities? What are the teaching aids that are relevant to be used? And also the assessment. Okay, now assessment is actually very important, because in our lessons we assess our students. Now, how do we assess? Just by asking questions, by looking at their work. Are they able to respond to your questions? Are they able to talk about it? They respond or they write. So how do they respond? That is part of assessment. And Okay, and these phase two students also now they want further support. They need further support and clarification on some key concepts pertaining to lesson planning. So they're so focused on lesson planning. Yeah, that is right. It is important. If you can plan a lesson, like what I said earlier, you can have a good lesson plan. Uh, so if you don't have a good lesson plan, you cannot present, you cannot implement your lesson. Okay. Ah, so now and the assessment part. Okay, assessment. P2P students, that what they mentioned earlier, what was mentioned earlier, they need more guidance. Okay. Okay. Wait. Mm, okay. Now, so for wait, this. Okay, for phase one practicum student teachers, they said that they need more input on areas pertaining to the teaching of the language skills. So this shows that they are not still, they haven't, maybe they are still not good, no, at how to teach the different language skills, how to teach listening skill, how to teach speaking skill, how to teach reading skill, and how to teach writing skill. Yeah, this is not as easy as what we see. Yeah, it is not easy. So I understand why these phase one students, they still need, they need us to guide them on that. And also classroom management and technicalities in lessons. Now, classroom management is also not easy. Yes, classroom management, classroom presence, and also technicalities. Okay, so yeah, I think most of the P1 phase one practicum students, they need classroom management. So we need to like lecturers need to take note of that. Yeah. Okay. So, and also the implementation and the technicality of the lessons. Okay. So, how to implement the lesson, and also we are looking at the technical side of the lesson. So, and then also now P2P student teachers. Okay. So, I've already mentioned of that on the lesson implementation, and also uh, their classroom management concerns. Okay, that is also, those are also their concerns. So you can see basically their concerns on are quite similar. Okay, so we have classroom management problem, not problem, but the challenges they think that they are going to face, and also assessment. Those are very important. Okay, now let's look at the insights and the recommendations. Okay, now, so it is important for us to, we have an attached establishment of a learning community between school teachers and the teaching institute. Okay, because these teachers, they are experienced, they are in schools, and they can share their experiences, what they have gone through in school, in the classrooms. So based on those experiences, what they can share with our students, it is a very valuable experiences. Okay, we cannot ignore that. The teacher who shared with us, um, she was very good. Okay, and our teachers, they learn a lot from her. They really appreciate that. Okay, and also student teachers need to look at the various new learning tools, applications, and hands-on skills. Okay, notwithstanding hybrid teaching. So our students should also now be exposed. They should be exposed to all the learning tools, digital apps. Okay, how to use digital apps, and how to be, they need to have the knowledge of hands-on, to be hands-on, not merely holding a textbook, not holding a textbook. So, and also now hybrid teaching, how to go about it. So we must be aware that, okay, uh, when you're teaching online, like what Dr. Prema said, there are a lot of challenges. There are a lot of challenges. Okay, so they need to know what are the apps that could appeal to the students. Okay, if you are in class, maybe for example, you can hold a textbook and read, for example. But when you are doing online, it is impossible. Okay, so now And another idea is another insight or recommendation that we would like to give is that we should all get students to develop materials, and then they share their materials. So there must be a resource repository so that they could all go into that, into the repository to extract, to use what they want to use. So it is one way to help the students, yeah, not to take wholesale, but to use and then adapt the resources given. So this is one of the ways. Mm. So okay, so that's all from me. Yeah. So now, any questions that you would like to ask?
Uh, I think so far
Madam
there have been
Irene?
no question. Yeah, can
That's
you hear
all
me?
from me, Madam Irene?
Yeah, can you hear me? Can you
Yes,
hear me?
yes, yes.
Okay, right. Yeah, I think there are no questions
Mhm.
so far from the audience. Thank you very much, Juan Ui, for sharing
Mm,
what we all carried out. Maybe you want to tell briefly, despite giving our students a methodology, skills, courses while they are still, in IPA before they go out for their practicum, despite giving all that, still there is a pertinent need to actually hold a workshop just before they go for their practicum. Yeah, why is that so,
mhm.
in your opinion?
Mm. Yeah, okay. Thank you, Madam Irene. Now, this workshop uh, is actually, I think, it should be organized for all our students. Okay, when I first mooted this and I got very good response. Okay, Madam Irene volunteered, Dr. Shamini volunteered, and also some of them, Madam Hasrin volunteered, I think Madam Hazian also volunteered. Okay, very eager to teach. And I think when I presented, I think the uh, what was it, the proposal, and if I'm not mistaken, I heard that the previous director, Mr. Alias, he agreed. He said that that is very good and make sure it is conducted every time before our students go for their practicum. Okay, so that is, you see, if the director could see that, and he said that please have it every time, okay, before they go for their practicum. So you see, this workshop is conducted because this is a way for us um, to share what we know. You see, okay, you see, these students, they have already gone through all those pedagogical skills, all the courses, methodological, teaching of reading and writing, teaching of listening and speaking. They have gone through. But by the time when they want to go out for their practicum, they have forgotten. They have forgotten how to write their lesson plan, what are the activities, what are the digital tools to use. So we get people like Madam Irene, help to get a teacher, help to get phase two practicum students who are experienced to share. So this will broaden and also at least is a foundation for the phase one practicum students. Yeah. So especially developing teaching materials, that is not easy. That is not easy. So most of them, what they do is the students, they go to class. Okay, students, take out your textbooks, take out your what is it, the workbook to do your work. Okay, that's all. So actually when you are in the class, you are supposed to make the class, your lesson, appealing to the pupils. So you have to come up with activities that that students are involved, and they will love. No, they can't wait to see you to come to the classroom. Yeah, Madam Irene. Okay, so it is, yeah,
Yes.
what all of you, okay, should attend. All of you should attend, and I think it should be continued, this workshop. Okay, yeah.
Yes.
So okay, thank you very much,
Thank you,
Madam
Puan.
Irene.
Yes.
Yes. Is that
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you actually created this platform. Actually, the proposal you came up with the proposal with this project. Yeah, it's a very a lot of things were actually learned, unlearn, relearn, during those times. And I think our students had a better self-esteem and they were very well prepared when they went for their practicum. Yeah. And yes, correct. This should be actually continued. Okay. So to all my colleagues, so please continue doing this, giving our students more. All right. As usual, we always give more to what is required. Yeah. Right. Just to prepare them. Okay, folks, we have exceeded 7 minutes into the break time. Now, break is actually from 10 until 10:25. And the next presentation, the third presentation onwards, would be taken over by Dr. Faustina. And audience, please feel free to fill in the form that has been shared. There's a link there, right? Please fill up and do the necessary lah. You will get the certificate for you to get the certificate. Okay, folks, take care. And I'll see you next time if I'm invited to moderate again. Okay, and I'll pass this to Dr. Faustina, the beautiful Dr. Faustina. Okay, thank you very much and bye bye.
And I try to fall for her touch, but I'm thinking of the way you are. Said I'm fine and said I moved on. I'm only here passing time in her arms, hoping I'll find a glimpse of us. 'Cause sometimes I look in her eyes, and that's where I find a glimpse of us. And I try to fall for her touch, but I'm thinking of the way you are. Said I'm fine and said I moved on. I'm only here passing time in her arms, hoping I'll find a glimpse of us. Fly FM. Boya, 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 no. I know you get the feels. Boya, 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 no. I'm so curious, but your boy wanna keep it cool. But I know every time you move, got me frozen. I get so shy, it's obvious. Yeah, yeah. It feels like butterflies. If I say what's on my mind, would I hit bullseye? Dude, I'm ready and I'm fine. Baby, feel like Cupid's all light, yeah, yeah, tonight. Yeah, tonight. If your heart beats the same way, let me know. 'Cause I boom, boom, boom from head to toe. I know love, it is such a funny thing, a mystery. Oh, gotta get to know you more. 'Cause I can feel a real connection, a supernatural attraction. I got the face for you, yeah, 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 yeah. You have stolen my heart, oh yeah. Never let it go, oh, oh, no, never let it go, oh, oh, oh. Lightning straight to my heart, oh yeah. I got all the feels for sure, yeah, I got all the feels for ya. Boy, yeah, boy, yeah, boy, you know, I know I get the feels. Boy, yeah, boy, yeah, boy, you know, I know you feel it. Way in the moonlight, dance in the dark, I know that I caught your eye. Are we on the same vibe? Wonder what's on your mind. Got me good and I wanna be a fool. If it's down, well, I wanna be a fool. Underneath the neon lights, baby, electricity tonight, baby. I know love, it is such a funny thing, a mystery. Oh, gotta get to know you more. 'Cause I can feel a real connection, a supernatural attraction. I got the face for you, yeah, 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 yeah. You have stolen my heart, oh yeah. Never let it go, oh, oh, no, never let it go, oh, oh, oh. Lightning straight to my heart, oh yeah. I got all the feels for sure, yeah, I got all the feels for you. For you know, I know I get the feel for you know. I know you feel it too. Boy, you know. I know I get the feels. Boy, you know. I know you feel it too. You got my attention.
A very good morning and welcome back. I'm Faustina Roberts, an academic lecturer in IPJ KBA, and I will continue moderating the Intellectual Discourse Session 2022. A gentle reminder, if you have any questions for our presenters, kindly drop them in the chat box and the questions will be answered at the end of their presentations. So without further ado, let us welcome our third presenter, Dr. Tengku Analiza Tengku Zaman, who will be sharing with us an interesting personal narrative entitled The Teacher Educator, the Student Teacher, and Online Teaching. Good to have you with us, Dr. Tengku Analiza. Take it away.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Faustina. Well, good morning to everyone online and everyone watching, and Assalamualaikum. The topic, okay, shall I put the PowerPoint on first? Okay. Okay, let's see. Okay. Okay, I hope everyone can see it now. All right. Okay. Well, the title of my presentation today is The Teacher Educator, the Student Teacher, and Online Teaching, a Personal Narrative. Well, basically, this is my perspective as a teacher educator. A bit of background to the study or the personal narrative itself. It was done during the MCO 2020 to 2021, and especially during the teaching practicum. Why I basically did this was because one was curiosity got the better of me. Wanted to see what would be, as a teacher educator, what would happen, my observation itself, how it would be. And then I felt that during that time it would be a great time to observe and record the experience of me being the teacher educator, observing my student teachers and seeing how they handle during practicum, how they handle online teaching and all those things. And also, it's to give an insight, a perspective from a teacher educator, as myself as a teacher educator, to other teacher educators around the world, in Malaysia especially, and some insights of what are the issues that I as a teacher educator face, and how student teachers, what are the things that they face when they're teaching online. So these are the concerns for this whole thing was to ensure that anonymity was given to the school, the pupils, the student teacher, and therefore I will be addressing the student teacher. If you look at the slides, you will see ST. They stand for student teacher, and I intend to address them as them, they, and their to hide the gender. Okay, right. We have to. I have to give you the settings of the situation that I was the research study itself. Yeah, there are two settings here. One, the student teacher is in front of their laptop, and the pupils are at home with their devices. Basically, they're online. Both the student teacher and the pupils are online. And the second setting that I would like to show here is that the student teacher is in front of the laptop while the pupils are physically in school and in the classroom. Actually, it's a hall, but basically they're physically in the school. The situation came by because at that point of time, there were some student teachers in the hostel who contracted COVID, and also within that time, there was a strict regulation that they had to keep up with, whereby if they were in close contact with any student, anyone, they would have to be quarantined for, if I'm not mistaken, at that point of time was 7 days. So that happened to this student teacher of mine, whereby they were not able to be in the school physically, although the school was already open. So I begin with the findings of the first setting, whereby both the pupils and the student teacher are online. Now, this is the issue where it was, which was conveyed to me by my student teacher. The physical classroom, normally it would be the students, the pupils themselves would be about 34 to 45 students, depending on pupils, depending on the classes. But for online teaching, the number of pupils that were online in the classroom with them was very low. Okay, perhaps 9 to 12 pupils at one time. Um, the student teacher basically cited the reasons where there was only one device in certain families, because his families come from P40 groups, the lower income group. So normally, these were the reasons that they gave why not many pupils were online. One, because they had only, in one family, they had only one device, and they had to share the device among the siblings. There can be 3 to 4 of them in the family, so they had to share devices and they take turns. Second reason cited was that they only had mobile phones. They do not have laptops, they don't have desktops, so they only had mobile phones, and at times they had to share the mobile phones themselves among the siblings. Then there are cases where the parents themselves, only the parents actually have a mobile phone or a laptop, and they are mostly working, and therefore the pupils themselves have access to it after 5 or after 6, or when the parents themselves come back uh, come back home. So that was the issue. Then the impact that was I, as a teacher educator, noticed when I was observing my student teacher was that I couldn't actually observe how my student teacher can manage the students, the classroom itself, in terms of how would they reprimand pupils who are not paying attention, and how would they conduct the classes, the group orientation, group work, all those things, because the number of pupils are very limited, very, very small compared to if you're in a physical classroom where you have 34, 35, and you can, as a student, as a teacher educator, I could observe how the student teacher was able to conduct activities, all those things. So there was very limited means, or it was difficult for me to assess on that matter, the classroom management itself. Okay. Then the other issue was when cameras, not all the pupils could switched on their cameras. My student teacher cited two main issues. That was the reason why the cameras could not be switched on. Which one was the limited data. The pupils themselves have very limited data, probably about 5 gig or 10 gig. It depends on what the parents can afford. And then internet connectivity, whereby there were times the internet connectivity in the pupils' homes areas itself was very slow, and therefore they would be in and out of the online classroom. And if they switched on the camera, chances of them being booted out from the online class would be there as well. Okay, so that itself proved to be an issue when I was assessing the student teacher, because I wanted to see the classroom management, how they would address issues concerning activities and behavior, student behavior, and all those things. It was difficult for me because in a physical classroom, it's live. You can actually watch how your student teacher conducts and if the child at the back, the pupil at the back was not paying attention, the student teacher, you as a teacher educator, I would be able to observe whether they were alert enough to see the student, that the child, the pupil at the back was paying attention or not. And those are the things that we assess as well. So that was the issue that I had. Having said that, there was one time where I was able to observe this thing. It was quite funny, basically, but at the same time, it was also something that we would consider assessing a student teacher, whereby this pupil, I think this pupil accidentally switched on the camera without realizing it. But this pupil was actually wearing makeup. I believe it was just lipstick and kind of that. I don't know what the student teacher was actually, the pupil was actually thinking of or doing, but I observed that that child was wearing makeup, lipstick, and I was just observing. I found it funny, but at the same time, I realized my student teacher did not realize that that particular child was doing that. And while that was happening, my student teacher was actually conducting a lesson, an activity, and getting the other students, other pupils, doing the work, and my student teacher, they themselves were like very into the lesson, that they did not realize that was happening. So when I brought this up to my student teacher, she was quite shocked, and she regretted the whole thing. The student teacher regretted the whole thing, saying that they didn't realize it at all. So hence this one, I had to tell my student teacher, that they have to be a bit more observant, alert. Yes, the lesson must go on, but as well, that has to be observed as well. They have to be very observant, vigilant, in fact, also to make sure that the pupils in the classroom are paying attention. So that was it. Okay, then okay, on to, so based on that itself, on that situation that I experienced, and also what I was observing, as I said earlier on, the cameras were off due to I'm sorry, let me reiterate that. And I was, based on that itself, I was reflected on myself as a lecturer teaching my students. I was looking at how to see it from their perspective, and I was thinking of my own experience, and the same thing happened. They had limited data at home, and internet connectivity was also a problem. Therefore, the cameras had to be switched off, or not. They don't have enough data to continue with the other lessons, and internet connectivity, they might be booted out from the lesson itself. So the questions that came to me was like, do I constantly check them to make sure that they are telling the truth, whether it's, they really do not have that much data to use, or at their area, whether they have internet connectivity is really very low, or sometimes it's like they, one moment they have it, one moment they don't. And to validate the reasons, whether, those are the questions that came to mind. And at the same time, do I penalize my, would it be fair for people or anyone to observe, who want to observe me, to penalize me for not insisting on the camera, on switching on the camera? So that's where I was, reflecting and putting, taking myself back, thinking about the experience my student teacher was going through, and myself as a, going through the same thing. So trust issues were there, considerations. Do I trust my students, whether they are telling the truth or not? So the implication that comes from that setting itself, because there were so many issues that we have to consider, then there's the same thing. Do we penalize student teachers for not insisting on the camera? Do we penalize them for the classroom management? Would it the constant checking on the pupils' attention, would it disrupt? If it disrupts the flow, if it disrupts the flow of the lesson, do we penalize the student teachers for that? There were so many things going on, and assessing that itself was, as a teacher educator, I had to rethink and be a bit more considerate when assessing my student teachers. Right. Then we go into the setting number 2, whereby the pupils were on site in the classroom, or in the hall to be exact, for this situation, and in the school and the student teacher was online. Now this one, as I mentioned earlier, it was because of the situation. That my student teacher had to be quarantined, and that they had to teach online, whereas the pupils were in the hall at the school. Now, what I observed, and I was actually at the school observing my student teacher teaching behind the screen online. And what I could see was that they were heavily dependent on another teacher. Now, the mentor or the cooperating teacher was kind enough to help out with the whole situation, got the equipment ready, got the class or the hall ready so that the class could be conducted online, and then arrange the pupils themselves, and then also getting the task sheets ready, photocopying everything, just so that this student teacher of mine could conduct the lesson for that day online while they were, in the hostel. So with that, I basically found that they had to, as a teacher teaching online, they had to depend on the teacher on the other end to help out everything. And the fact that the pupils do not have access to a laptop or an iPad, as I said, most of the pupils come from the low-income group. They don't have the luxury of iPad or laptop, and to bring to school, what more to bring to school? Okay, and the issues that came out also were the responses, the pupils' responses. There was a delay because there's only one laptop in front to project on the screen itself, to project the student teacher on the screen. And the screen is the normal portable screen whereby if you're in front of the class, you're right in front, you can see. But when you're at the back where I was sitting, it was quite difficult to actually really see the student teacher in up close. So there were many things that were going on, and the fact that not all the pupils, that there were not enough microphones to go around, and there was only one microphone, to get to link it up to the laptop itself was another issue. So what happened was, when the student teacher had questions, and the pupils had to go to the computer and shout out the answer. That itself took time because of the mobility, walking from one end to the other to the computer in front. Okay, and the student teacher, when I asked the student teacher what was the view, and they basically said very limited view, could hardly see the pupils right at the back, or the face at what they were going through, or the struggles that they were going through, or whether the pupils at the back were really paying attention to the lesson itself. So there, basically, the implications that I observed was that manpower, as it is in schools, there are limited manpower. We don't have teacher assistants in the classroom to help with the hardware, the soft copies, the task sheets and everything. You need an extra hand if at all this was to come up to happen again. And the delay in response, people's response takes a lot of time because from walking one end to the other. And on top of that, when you have group work, um, if both parties are online, then it's different. But this is because the children, the pupils were in the classroom and they did not have their devices. So it was difficult to do group work. They had to, my student teacher basically had to depend again on the mentor, the cooperating teacher who were there to help around with the organization of group work and task sheets. Visibility of the screen was very limited, it's small, and students, the pupils at the back could not see, and being student teacher could not monitor all these things that were happening. And therefore, for the student teacher, classroom management was very limited to what could be done, basically. So as a teacher educator, I had difficulty in assessing that part. I had to assess what was in front of me, what I could see, and that was it. But in terms of classroom management, it was difficult. So I had to consider a lot of things. Do I penalize my student teacher for the things that are beyond their control? You know, for example, they were not able to manage the groups because they're at home online behind the screen and the pupils are there, and it's difficult compared to when they teach live, when they are in front of the classroom, physical classroom, and teaching them. Okay, so basically how do we as teacher educators assess the student teachers on their capabilities of becoming a good teacher and good at management, classroom management. So the takeaway itself from this whole experience that I got was that online teaching and learning is actually the future, and it will come again. There will be situations that might just come again, and same situation. It may be a different illness altogether, and it will help, especially if the teacher is away for a long period of time. So the student, the teacher can be can teach online. But with that being said, an improved teacher education syllabus and curriculum needs to be developed to accommodate this new norm, whereby it's looking at where we have to include online teaching management skills, because as teachers, as student teachers or teachers to be, it's no longer limited to the software and online using that alone itself. So teachers and future teachers need to gain more knowledge on teaching remotely than the students are on site and in school. How do we do that? How do they do that? They've got to gain new things, new knowledge, new information on that one. And then finally, on this matter, we have to really think, the government really has to think of how to get our pupils, our students in schools, how do they have access to both ICT equipment and software itself, because not everyone is rich enough to have one device per person in the family. And teacher educators, while we're having all these things going on, we have to be very accommodating and considerate with the student teachers and what they are experiencing when they are teaching online. So basically, that's what I found out, and that is my takeaway from the whole experience. So that's about it. Dr. Fasina, my presentation itself. Thank you very much for listening.
That is indeed an interesting sharing session, Dr. Annalisa. The COVID-19 pandemic has definitely changed some of our most basic daily tasks in order to continue to function as a society. And education is one thing that the COVID-19 pandemic has permanently changed. So it was definitely an interesting sharing done by you. Now we shall proceed with the Q&A, question and answer session. Now that classes are conducted face to face, so based on
Yeah.
your observation or even your experience, do you experience or observe any challenges as a result of online learning?
Um, n- well, for the student teachers, no, they were able to adapt to it. But I did ask some of the teachers, the senior teachers who were there, and what has happened since the opening of schools and all. Well, basically, they found that many pupils are still um, not coming to school. One, because parents themselves are still afraid, still hesitant in teaching, in sending the children to school. Secondly, some, because they disappeared, they have no access to devices, as I was saying, so they were, way behind from their peers in terms of some of them still cannot read, and especially those who went into year one at the start of the pandemic, when they had classes online and everything. They lost a lot because some of them still cannot read or write, when in fact, in reality, they could if they had physical classroom. They could if they had the access to the devices. So that was what I saw. Sad but true. But I had recently spoken to my supervisor in England, and I asked what was the situation in England as well. How was it? How are they doing it? And to my surprise, okay, I know it was pretty presumptuous on my end, but I thought that they, being the first world countries kind of thing, and they had all the access to, those devices, they would be better off. But it seems no. Uh, they had lost a lot of pupils along the line. If I'm not mistaken, she was saying that it was about 100,000 students who are still not online or not in class or not in school because they suddenly just disappeared. So that was, for me, it was okay. So obviously it's happening, everywhere in the world, even in the first world countries, like in England, for example. So that was, yeah, that was quite shocking to me. I mean, I was, assuming that they were being, England and everything, but they are also having the same issue, basically. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, yes, it did. And it's interesting, that, yeah, we always have this perception, right?
Mm-mm.
Misconception, especially. So I'm sure you would agree or maybe disagree that do you think that there should be a balance between traditional and modern teaching methods?
I think there should be a balance, mainly because, right, COVID is one illness that came about. As we go along, I think there'll be more. And the fact that having this online teaching is good, especially when, for example, my student teacher was there, quarantined, but still well, still able to teach. So there, I mean, that's when the students should not be deprived of the lesson. They can go on continuing the lesson, although the teacher is at home. As it is now, if anyone is ill, because you have all sorts of those who get contract COVID, sometimes they are well, they're fit, but they're just diagnosed with COVID, but they are able to teach and go about their own business, and to deprive of the pupils from lessons. So I think it should be a balance whereby the future teachers should be able to be how do you say, be able to teach online, and at the same time to teach in the school as well. There should be a balance, because anything with, anything that's good, you have too much of it. I believe, my personal belief is that too much of a good thing is not good as well. That's why.
So sorry.
Lagging, is
I
it?
guess the viewers lost us, yeah?
Oh dear. Okay.
there. I think yeah, the connection is very unstable. I think we are
Okay.
back.
Oh, I'm
We have
sorry.
lost Dr. Yeah, Dr. Annalisa, are you with us?
I can you hear me? Oh, okay.
Yes, yes, yes.
All right. Okay. You can hear me.
Yes, we can. Well, I
Okay. All
can.
right.
I hope you. Yes, yes.
Okay. So yeah, basically, do you want me to repeat what I said, or where did I was it where we got cut off?
So I think you would agree that there should be a balance. Am I right,
Yeah, there
Doctor
definitely should be a balance.
Anal? Mhm. All right.
Yeah.
So thank you, Dr. Analiza. The personal narrative that you have shared with us today is so apt, and we can relate to the things that you have shared with us today. So thank you once again.
Most welcome, and thank you for having me. Actually. Okay. All right. Thank you
Thank you.
again.
Thank. So we shall now have our fourth presenter, Ms. Grace, who has conducted a survey on the perception of Malaysian teachers on the use of foreign textbooks in the primary English as a second language ESL classroom. Another interesting study, I must say, since we no longer use our own locally produced ELT textbooks. So, and her supervisor, Dr. Balkis, from IPG KBA, is also with us. All right. So, Miss Grace, could you share with us the finding of your study?
Our written textbooks would be archived and forever kept in history. Good day everyone, my name is Grace Nicholas. I am currently teaching in SK Pengaraan Pensiangan, and the title of my article is A Survey on the Perception of Malaysian Teachers on the Use of Foreign Textbooks in the Primary ESL Classroom. In the year 2017, Malaysian ESL teachers were introduced with the usage of the Common European Framework of Reference or CEFR, and with the curriculum, foreign textbooks are introduced in our classrooms. Now since then, social media platforms were flooded with comments and opinions on the textbooks. This includes my own peers and typically any conversations I have with ESL teachers. Therefore, I have made it my own goal to try and pin down what are Malaysian teachers' perceptions on the usage of the foreign textbook, mainly on what teachers perceive and how they exploit the foreign textbook. Before I delve further into my findings, I would like to talk about the roles of the textbook in a common ESL Malaysian classroom. The usage of textbook is a universal element of teaching. This means that the textbook is necessary in achieving the success of any language program or lesson. Secondly, the textbook is a major source of language input for teachers and students alike, and it complements the teachers' methods of teaching in their lessons. For example, in the Malaysian language classroom, teachers are required to use the textbook as it is in line with the curriculum structured by the Ministry of Education. Therefore, ESL teachers rely heavily on the textbooks itself. This means that textbooks should be able to aid in students' self-directed learning, helps in self-assessment, while also acts as a guide when reviewing and monitoring students' learning progress. Now, these are my research questions and what I want to achieve when conducting this survey. Number one is, what are Malaysian teachers' perception towards the use of foreign textbook in the primary ESL classroom? And number two is, how do teachers exploit the foreign textbook in the classroom? Which would direct the study to the objectives of the survey, which is to investigate Malaysian teachers' perception on the usage of the foreign textbook in a primary ESL classroom, and to find out how teachers exploit the foreign textbook.
Okay, please
Now,
bear with us.
exceptions. Since I applied an explanatory mixed method research, the findings from the questionnaire will be topped up with further questions in a semi-structured interview. This is done by first distributing the questionnaire on a 4-point Likert scale, analyzing it, and then have interviews with the teachers who had more views about the textbooks. Now, the questions are derived from the questionnaire. However, teachers are prompted to give more insightful opinions in order to get clearer views on the matter. Both of which, the questionnaire and semi-structured interview outcomes are analyzed using the SPSS version 21. These are the participants of the study. All of them are situated in an urban setting. A total of 50 questionnaires were answered by ESL teachers via SurveyMonkey. 27 of them were female teachers and 23 of them were males. With a percentage of about 54 females and 46 males, the participants of the study in ratio between males and females are almost equal. From the total of 50 people, 11 of them had more than 10 years experience teaching English and 39 of them had less than 10 years of experience. For the interview, there were a total of 7 interviewees with 5 female teachers and 2 male teachers that volunteered to be interviewed. All of the teachers that participated must have at least taught using the Supermind series textbook for Primary 1 in the year 2017 and Primary 1 and 2 in 2018. This is because at the time of the data collection, the teachers would have taught using the textbook for a full year in a Malaysian classroom setting. Apart from that, the Supermind's textbook is used for both years 1 and 2. Now these are the findings in which answers the first question for the research, which is what are teachers' perceptions towards using the foreign textbook? I have color-coded the chart to view it easier. Green being teachers agreed and red means they disagreed. Questions about the resource from the textbook that includes the visual aspect, content, language, culture, HOTS, the 4 C's which are critical thinking, creativity, collaboration and communication, and lastly, the cost. Teachers disagreed with the culture aspect of the textbook and how much it cost. Then, questions for the resource implementation, mainly about the guidelines, if there is a teacher's book, a CD, the textbook itself, the activity book, are the objectives achievable in the Malaysian classroom? Does it follow the sequences in the DSKP? And if the textbook is the only source provided? Teachers agreed that there is no activity book provided for their pupils and that most agreed that textbook is the only source provided. This then leads me to ask teachers in the semi-structured interview, whereby most teachers find that the textbook is helpful in the sense that the language is simple and easy for pupils to understand. Plus, the visuals are very attractive and the contents exercise thinking skills. However, they did raise concerns in the terms of the culture present in the textbook, where it became harder for them to explain the festivals, weather, and food in the textbook since most of it is not here in Malaysia or does not happen here. The teachers felt that foreign culture is introduced way too early on and that there is no Malaysian culture at all in the textbook itself. Furthermore, the teachers mentioned that there is not enough content for them to teach, which makes for more work for teachers. To answer the second research question, which is how teachers exploit the textbook, these are the findings. In evaluating pupils, teachers answer if pupils apply what they learn in the classroom, the suggested activities in the classroom, in the textbook, if role play, project, quiz, peer assessment, making portfolios were present, and if the textbook itself used assessments. Teachers did not feel that the suggested activities were enough and the textbook didn't provide enough assessments. For the semi-structured interview, teachers felt that the projects in the textbook were fun for their pupils and the assessment that were there are rightfully challenging for the pupils. However, some parts of the textbooks were too simple for advanced learners as it does not assess all proficiency. Teachers had to add materials for advanced learners, which then had teachers prepare more for their learners. In conclusion, the findings of the survey have found that all teachers both had positive and negative views on the textbook. While the foreign textbook did have drawbacks for the teachers, nevertheless they are also positive about the usage of the foreign textbook. Teachers should be able to adapt the material given to them to cater to their pupils' needs. However, it is necessary for pupils to learn of their own culture in their second language. This would contextualize the language used and help pupils understand that they could use the language, which is English, in their day-to-day activities. I hope that in the near future, the same research which would be done on a larger scale that would involve more teachers in order to make the survey more reliable, and that the next study would focus more on the learners who are the biggest stakeholders and see whether the foreign textbook benefits them at all. I also hope that textbook writers, the teacher education, the teachers' professional development, and policymakers take into account that teachers' perception should be taken seriously as they can be considered a professional in their own field. In that way, the education constructed in Malaysia would be made specifically to help teachers convey knowledge through their lessons and ensure a bright future in education for Malaysia. That's all from me. Thank you for your kind attention. I'm sorry that I am unable to be online for this session. However, if you have any question, feel free to contact me via email or any other social media platforms below.
Thank you, Miss Grace, for the video presentation. So since 2018, imported ELT textbooks have replaced locally produced textbooks in stages. This was an attempt made by the Ministry of Education, MOE, to improve the standards of English while benchmarking against the Common European Framework of Reference, CEFR. Hence, the finding of your study, Miss Grace, shed light on the perception of teachers as one of the end users of the textbooks. And we do have a which will be answered by Dr. Balkis, since Miss Grace is unable to be with us today. Dr. Balkis, are you with us?
Yes. Hi, Faustina.
Hi, Dr. Balkis. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, doing good. How about you?
I'm good as well. Good to have you with us. So, what are the most interesting findings that you would like to highlight um, to the Ministry of Education?
Okay. One of the points that I would like to highlight here, received from the teachers that we interviewed, um, uh, what was mentioned here is some of the teachers that we interviewed preferred the foreign textbook, and they believe that introducing other cultures in the early stage of their studies is important for young learners, so that it's an eye opener for them, and they believe that most of the pupils are familiar actually for the young learners, with the culture presented in the textbook. And I believe that these are the students that are from the high income families. They come, the background are from, they are from the elite part of the, coming from the elite part of the family. And they are more exposed compared to those who are in the suburb, or, in the pedalaman kampung area. And um, when the teachers they said that when they try to expose this culture to the students, they get excited. Okay, they get excited, and especially the topic which is around rich in culture. People are very interested to know more about these cultures. And the teachers notice that learning these cultures is important. So it's important to introduce at early stage. So this is also, I think, one of the good points that in the usage of foreign textbook. And besides that, it promotes collaborative learning in the lessons. Okay, most of the activities. So that is one of the most important highlights of during this research being done.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Balkis. And we would like to wish Miss Grace the very best for her future endeavors. Thank you so much, Dr. Balkis, for being with us. So, just to sum up, to wrap up, as we no longer use our very own locally produced ELT textbooks, so the findings that you have put forward for us today would be beneficial for our textbook writers to look into the areas in which you have studied. So, thank you once again.
You're welcome. Thank you for having us. And on behalf of Grace, we would like to thank the committee to include her today for her presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Balkis, and thank you, Miss Grace. All right, that was definitely an interesting session sharing. So next up, we have Miss Yek Ling Lee, who will be sharing with us her study on teacher trainees' perception on teaching and learning during COVID-19 pandemic, the challenges, the role of technology, and the experiences. Welcome, Miss Ling Lee. Could you introduce yourself to us? And we would like to hear more about your research.
Thank you, Dr. Faustina. I would like to present my screen. Okay. Okay. Hello and good afternoon, everyone. I am Ye Ling Li from PISMP June 2018, and I will be sharing the last article in our ELT journal December 2021 edition with the title Teacher Trainees Perception on Teaching and Learning During the COVID-19 Pandemic, the Challenges, the Role of Technology, and the Experiences. The focus of this write up is to provide insights on the experiences and the perception of a teacher trainee navigating the teaching and learning process during the COVID-19 pandemic. Therefore, I will be sharing today will be majorly divided into four parts based on the article, which are my teaching and learning backgrounds, the challenges that I faced, the role of technology towards education, and the gist or the summary of the experiences. As this article is actually a reflective writing, the reflection is written based on my practicum and internship experiences, which covers diverse demographic of national school (SK) and national type school SJKC in urban and suburban areas. Due to the outbreak of COVID-19, I had the opportunities to experience various modes of teaching and learning, which include physical classroom learning, PDPC, home-based learning, PDPR, and live PDPC, just like the setting that Dr. Annalisa has presented in her article a while ago. So, first and foremost, let's talk about the challenges. Teaching has never been an easy task. It takes a prodigious amount of effort for a teacher trainee or a novice teacher to learn the pedagogies, put strategies into practices, and build experiences from trials and errors in order to ensure teaching and learning takes place effectively in the classroom. During the outbreak of COVID-19, one of the challenges that I have identified is lesson planning, especially in unpacking of learning standards in different modes, different learning modes. because most school at that time has to limit synchronous learning to only 1 hour per week, while the remaining hours being asynchronous. And this is due to the limited electronic device and internet access, where some pupils has to share devices among 3 to 5 siblings, and some other school decides to have a mixed mode where 2 hours of lesson is allocated per subject in the timetable, where the first hour should be synchronous and the next hour should be asynchronous. And there was even one time where I had to conduct live PDPC for a month, where my pupils were in class and I am in front of the laptop quarantine due to our college facing internal lockdown, to prevent the cluster to groom. So it was really a challenge for me, as I have been focusing more on teaching and learning the classes for face-to-face learning in physical classroom throughout my training as a student teacher. As a result, I have to unlearn the strategies learned in college and relearn to design the lesson activities that are fit to the learning standard, suit my pupils, as well as the mode of teaching and learning. For example, for one of my asynchronous class, I have to become a YouTuber designing instructional videos. And this is one of my instructional videos on my YouTube channel, which explain about the poem Grandma House, using the house I built in Minecraft education. And this is actually the video that my students like the most. And to design the activity and to I believe at that time my student told me that they were very burdened with offline activity, so I give them online activity, although it's asynchronous, and which is to build a digital diorama using Canva. And they were having fun putting in 3D images to present to me how they would wish their grandma house would look like as a production of the lesson. Um, unlike the activity asynchronous class where I do most of the talking, asking question without waiting responses from the pupils, the live PDPC is also another challenge, because I have to engage pupils for response while controlling both the streaming, web page, and pupils' disciplines in the classroom. These various modes of learning are contrasting towards each other, and hence the lesson planning itself become a challenge, and even to conduct the lesson well in different circumstances. Besides, okay, this is actually where I have to squeeze my eyes to look at them showing their work and getting my real time feedback. So it was really a challenge. Hold on a second. Okay, so besides the first challenge of lesson planning, I also have to learn new technology tools which would possibly help in conducting my online and offline classes, apart from those that I have been exposed during my studies. Although some of the application are relatively cross-sector, such as you can see here, the OBS Studio, which is often used by gaming streamers, and EPUB, which is used by professional graphic and animation designer. These tools are, I found it really useful for education sector too. For instance, OBS was very helpful for the purpose of recording videos. Initially, I was using Filmora, a professional video editor, but I found the work very tedious because I have to record the video first, and it would be around 2 hours, and then I have to edit it, adding some images, put the green screen background, and it would take me about a staggering of 6 hours to just record one lesson. But with OBS Studio, with the preset graphics, and that I'm able to record it synchronously, presenting the Google web page and things, and so I would only need at most 2 hours to record presentable instructional videos for my student. So I think that these technology tools really help for the education sector. And these challenges actually makes me realize that what I have been learning during studies was not enough, and I have to be very adaptive for uh, the changes. So I must unlearn some knowledge as well as put away some old perception in order to be open and relearn to make quick responses to the fast changing environment, in which one of it is to rethink the role of technology. During the before the outbreak of COVID-19, my perception on technology, using technology in education, was only limited to Microsoft PowerPoint, Google Slides, Flipgrid, Kahoot. And although that time during 2019, Frog VLE, the virtual learning environment, was introduced, there was challenges that barrier it from implement successfully in schools, such as restricted access of network, limited technical support, and lack of teachers' competency, which caused it to stop being introduced in June. I think is June 2019. And I never thought that distant learning or online learning could happen to primary school students. It was during the pre COVID-19, which is around 2020, the usage of technology is being forced to be applied in teaching and learning. It actually made online learning possible and happen even in primary school context. The objective was the objective of Frog VLE was then managed to be achieved with the use of Google Classroom, or I think most of the teachers also use Telegram. With technology, learning was able to continue for most of the primary school pupils in Malaysia, and that was the moment that I truly realized and believe that the use of technology is essential in teaching and learning. With the use of Google Classroom, Google Meet, Zoom, and online learning tool being normalized during the pre-COVID-19 stage, I started to see that pupils are getting better in utilizing the online tools. They can Google for answers, they can follow instruction to complete online tasks. And then I started to think that technology could help to solve problem and create wholesome experience for them. For example, during my second practicum, I faced an issue that is which my year 5 pupils, they are rather passive compared to my other classes. They would um, only answer in Malay language when I ask them question. And some pupils prefer to only text in the chat box and refuse to turn on the microphone. So I decided to approach them personally and ask about the true problem. So they told me that they were shy to speak in English, and they were also they don't think that using English is essential. Learning English is essential in their daily life because they only use Iban language and Malay language in daily setting. Even when during even when they are playing games like Mobile Legend, I thought that when they play Mobile Legend, they will meet people from all over the world, so they will need to use English. But no, they told me that they would only speak Bahasa Indon and Malay language because they can change the setting and they will only meet gamers from Indonesia. So I thought that it would be a great opportunity for me to collaborate with a teacher from Turkey, Mr. Ghazi, with his student, where the student can only speak Turkish and English. So English would be the common language between my students and his students. So with the help, my supervisor, my practical maths, I'm able to conduct this program during my lesson, which is to motivate my student interest in learning English as well as exchanging cultures and value. Where during that time it was the Olympic season, so the Malaysian students have to speak to the ask and answer question for the Turkish student of their super sports star that won medals in Turkish for Turkish in Olympics, while the Turkish student doing the vice versa to fill in the information box. And um, I think this program have bring a very positive impact on my students, where I can see them very willing to learn English. They would be willing to borrow devices from anyone so that they could be in the class. This also increase the attendance, and parents would willing to help to make their children more presentable. If you can see here, my students even wear the traditional costume in order to meet their international friends, and they would text me and ask me, "Oh, teacher, do I say this correctly? And how do I say it in English?" So I can see that they have the urge to learn, and they would practice to speak English more confidently so that they could communicate better with their international friends. So hence the use of technology has become optimal. And reaching the current state where the post-COVID education, I think that most teachers and students would now become more acceptant to technology, where it could be used to enhance teaching and learning in the classroom. This is where during my internship, I have designed a project in order to invite my students into AI wildlife adventure using metaverse. I will show you the video. Great choice. Welcome to our wildlife adventure. Okay. It was a challenge due to limited devices and internet access. The Chromebook in school was all unusable after MCO because they didn't continue to do the maintenance. But thankfully, after communicating with the parents, promoting the project in WhatsApp group, and informing them all about all the benefits that the project could bring, I managed to get pupils to bring their own devices and share it with their friends. And it was made able to bring pupils to the AI wildlife adventure, where they can look closely, interact with animals from different habitats, compare and contrast them, and describe about them as well as relate the world to themselves. And hence this actually takes me to the experiences where I realized that it actually takes unconditional amount of efforts, supports from teachers, parents, and school administration, and even to my supervisor and pupils to make teaching and learning effective. Without if you can see here, without Madam Katini, my life PDBC wouldn't happen at all, because she would help me to set up the devices, get the learning material accessible for my students. And there are parents that are very supportive. They will even be willing to buy new devices for the student just to be in my online class. And there are school administration that will show up during weekends to decorate the schools with me, to make a school reopening more attractive, and makes the learning environment more, I think, cheerful for the students. And my SB were very supportive with the ideas that I came up with, where I thought it would be impossible to conduct, but they would get support, guidance, and advices to make it happen. So the encouragement and the positive feedback really helps all this experience to happen. And I have also seen teachers who were willing to go extra miles, going house to house, hills and mountains, just to ensure that the students learn something. In short, this experience has helped me to add the process of unlearn, learn, relearn, which is essential in being a teacher. Therefore, to sum up, teaching and learning are always interrelated, as one should never stop learning and gaining experiences in order to teach. Undeniably, COVID 19 has changed the way it has been done over the decades. But learning can never stop, as our youngsters need to be taught, nurtured, and guided to blossom into the best version of themselves. With that, I would like to end my presentation with a quote from Johannes Surya. I'm convinced that no child is considered unintelligent. The key is a good teacher and the proper method. By proper method, I believe that it means whatever it takes to make teaching and learning take place successfully. And we teachers, along with the support from other teachers, parents, as well as students and school administration, have the power to make it a realization. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Ling Lee. It is very interesting to hear a teacher's trainee's perception on teaching and learning during the pandemic. I'm sure the pandemic has molded you into becoming not just a resilient teacher, but a creative one as well. Right?
Yeah,
Okay. We
definitely.
do have a question for you, a few questions. So, what advice would you like to give teachers out there?
As a novice teacher, I wouldn't say much of advising them, but I would just share my personal opinion, because I think that um, the novice teacher has the fire, the power, the passion that they want to make a change to the world, but they need the support. So go out and seek for help, communicate
Mhm.
well with your SV, the teachers in school, the parents, or even make friends with the student. Will the satisfaction come when the student would be able to change from dislike about a subject to become, oh, English is my favorite subject. That would be really rewarding. So teachers, the student teachers, don't be afraid, just try and errors. It's a learning process.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Ling Li. Very beautifully said, the way you put it. It's just so beautiful to hear. All right. What are there any technological tools that has helped you manage teaching and learning? If there could be one that you would like to share, what would it be?
um, Thank you for that question. uh, I think that the technology tools are uncountable actually on the
Mm-hmm,
internet.
mm-hmm,
It's up to the teachers to find out one that is considered more suitable for them, because
mm-hmm,
uh, I thought that the things that I use like Classic, OBS Studio was very useful for me. But then
mm-hmm.
when I asked my practical mates, they would say that, oh, I don't think so. I think this is better. So yeah, there are also a lot of tutorials on YouTube where I think
Mm-hmm,
the teachers can also learn on their own, and there are also sharing, like for sharing from other teachers that is experience, and they are like the pioneer to the advanced uh, tutor for the technology tools like Apple Teacher, Google Certified
mm-hmm,
Teacher, and
mm-hmm.
they could also look into that. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much for sharing your findings, Miss Ling Li. Wishing you the very best, all the very best.
Thank you so
Take
much,
care.
Dr. Christina,
All right,
and
take
have a
care,
lovely
stay
day.
safe.
Thank
All right, we shall go for a break and we will resume at 12:30. Thank you. See you all back again at 12:30. we shall go for a break, and we shall resume at 12:30 with our last presenter for today. And yes, see you at 12:30. Thank you.
On one fine morning, ESL teachers were caught off guard with the change of Malaysian
welcome back and thank you for being with us. We have now come to our last presenter for the day. Let us welcome Miss Celine, who will be sharing her study entitled Using Songs to Improve Grammar Skills Among Primary English as a Second Language ESL Learners in Malaysia. Good to have you with us, Miss Celine. Could you introduce yourself and you may present your study?
All right, thank you, Doctor. Hi, I'm Celine, and oh, that's the school bell ringing. Sorry. I was in PISMP 2016, a TESOL student. And yeah, thank you for having me here. So, can I start the
Yes.
presentation? Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. Right. So, using songs to improve grammar skills among primary ESL learners in Malaysia, as it is of my own interest, which are songs. And I would like to integrate songs into lesson plans. And this is my study about it and the thesis that I've done. Right. So this research was a case study on
Mhm.
three primary year five pupils in urban KL, Kuala Lumpur, and it was carried out for 3 weeks. The research instruments were a grammar test, and pre-test, post-test, a semi-structured interview, and also I've taken field notes to jot down the reaction of the pupils during the lesson. And because during the whole case study, it was in the pandemic season, so I couldn't conduct it in a physical setting. So that might be there were a few setbacks to it. All right, and the intervention was a song that I've adapted from Are You Sleeping, Brother John, that nursery song,
Mhm.
and I've adapted it into
Mhm.
uh, an the article song. It's called the article songs, and then it involves a whole intervention, the lesson plan that included quiz is an online quiz uh, application. Then I will tell you more about it. So, my question for this research is, what is the most common grammar mistake made by the pupils? And how does incorporating songs into grammar lessons help? Actually, how do they help primary ESL learners learn more effectively? And okay, so what problems are we solving? Now, Malaysian ESL learners, they have been facing challenges in executing accurate grammar, as they still lack grammar skills and have these difficulties in executing grammatically correct sentences despite 11 years of formal English education in both primary and secondary school secondary levels. And we can see that the interference of mother tongue, it actually contributed to some of the wrong usage of English grammatical rules, morphology, and syntax among Malaysian pupils, as according to these researchers. Um, an obvious example would be how they, which word comes first in terms of adjectives and nouns. In Bahasa Melayu, kari ayam, and they would just translate directly like curry chicken, but it's
Mhm.
actually chicken curry. So you can see that the interference of mother tongue is very very prominent. And
Mhm.
also traditional grammar teaching methods, they actually are not so interesting for the pupils in terms of learning grammar skills, because as we see here, the PPP approach, presentation, practice, production, yes, they are the basics to expose the grammar skill to pupils. But because they're so used to um, drill on grammar items, they learn first, then only they understand, oh, this is where I should use this grammar item. I thought all the way, uh, um, it's being introduced deductively, which means teachers, they give them um, the how do I say that? They give students the rules first, and then only they give more examples, and then they practice without really understanding in which context or It's how to say, it opposed to the flipped classroom theory where pupils get to explore, oh, this is the type of grammar skills, these are all the examples. Now that I've gathered, what can I
Mm.
get from it? What is the
I think
summary?
it's the inductive and deductive
Mm.
teaching method, right, Celine?
Yes, yes, exactly. So if we teach grammatical rules directly and
Mm.
deductively and giving them drill-like activities, it actually demotivated them in some sense, where they felt like, oh, it's so redundant. I've done
Mm.
everything, but I still don't understand. Like in which context I just see this and I do that, do this, do that. So it's not that creative in terms of um individual independent learning. They don't get to explore. They just receive and then keep absorb like a sponge, right? So these are the problems, and it can be seen that the weakness is rooted in, because it English is our second language for Chinese as well. Yeah. So the influence of that is significant, and it is a problem that need to be solved in the learner's early age. So after we see that the issue of inaccurate grammar executed by pupils, as well as the cons of using traditional grammar teaching methods stated by the researchers, it is important to use authentic materials in teaching grammar, which in this case are songs.
Mm.
And which grammar aspect? There are so many of them. So I've picked these pupils. The participants were in year five. So I've taken these grammar items from the DSKP of their syllabus, and these are all the result that I've got. I've given them Google form to fill up regarding each grammar aspect. There was one question for each grammar aspect, except for the reflexive pronouns where I gave two question on that. And as we can see here, most of the answer that was answered incorrectly were the common and proper noun, reflexive pronouns, as well as definite and indefinite articles. So after reasoning and confirming with the pupils, actually they didn't understand what is proper noun and common noun. They only know kata nama am dan kata nama kas. So they don't understand. They didn't understand. So I excluded this mistake from being a grammar mistake because it is due to their lack of vocabulary and not their grammatical knowledge. Um, there were two questions on reflexive pronouns, but only one was answered incorrectly. So, which means they still understand at least one of these questions. Therefore, the indefinite and definite articles was the most common mistake made by the participants, and that would be our focus grammar item for the whole intervention. All right, and I've given them a pre-quiz on and the. There were 20 questions, and they had to use it was a Google form, and then this was is for comparison, because if you want to know whether an intervention is effective, you need a pre-quiz and a post-quiz. Yes, and the post-quiz contained the same questions as the pre-quiz. Next, this is the presentation stage where I introduce them to this song, Hero, to let them get uh, warm up about this song. I asked them, how do you feel about the meaning? Is it a sad song or is it a positive song? And after asking that, I'll let them listen. So this actually, I wanted to bring pupils' attention to the definite articles, the and indefinite articles, the and the n. And this song, Hero by Mariah Carey, the lyrics consists of all three of the articles. So while listening to the music for the second time, I'll let them. I already sent this Google document link to them, and they have to fill in the blanks while listening to the song. And after they know, oh, what is indefinite and other definite articles, and the, I'll introduce them to the song, the article song. So if you know that song, Are You Sleeping, Brother John? You will know how to sing it. Okay. These are articles, and singular now, and I, E, A, O, the plural nouns, the proper noun. So I first introduced them that they are and the. And an is for singular. And then N is for the vowel sound and not the letter. Because some, like unicorn, we don't say and unicorn is U. That the sound is different. So I introduced them to I, E, O, and sound. And the is for plural nouns, also the proper nouns. And I give them the example for the next verse, which is a university, the university, an hour, an honest man. So these are two of the examples of where the letter doesn't match. It is not vowel, but we still use an. Okay, and then the sea, the children, the sun, the moon, the piano, the guitar, the tallest, the shortest. So the sea, the children, they are all plural nouns. We cannot uncountable and plural nouns. And also the sun, the moon, proper noun. The piano, the guitar, for musical instruments, we use the tallest, superlative, the tallest, the shortest. And I'll bring you back to the university and the university. I teach them this one, a university, the university. So it's like is any university. But if you want to refer to one university only, you use the university, that particular university. All right. So after teaching them and let them sing for a few times, I turned off the lyrics and I found that wow, they can remember. They sing well. They know the lyrics. So after I make sure they know the song by heart already, okay, I'll practice the song using the song with quizzes. And quizzes, I've made 15 questions for them as well. Then we the quizzes is an interactive quiz app where you can click on and then there will be power up. So it made them interested to answer this MCQ, multiple choice questions. And then they practice, for example, this one. He, uh, sorry, it was too small. He had olive with his sandwich, right? So I asked them, okay, olive. Olive. So is it a and or the? Then they will sing. N A I E O. So they and is for A I E O. So olive and when they choose, I'll be controlling the yeah, I'll be controlling the quizzes. So they just tell me the answer with orally. So say, okay, good. Then after we practice for this quizzes, it's production time. Let's harvest the result. So they did the post test, and after that, here are the results. As you can see, there were these three pupils. They were from band 3 for all language skills. And they get the same exposure of English in class because I asked them, did you go for any tuition? They say no. So only in the classroom, their exposure to English. And this is the result. As you can see here, pre-test, they got uh, quite low. The blue ones are the pre-quiz result, and it increased. The red bar is the post-test result, and the scores increased. The yellow ones. So pupil A, all the green color column were the ones that they got correct for the post quiz, which means they improved. And the red one, well, maybe they don't know, something slipped their mind, so they got it wrong as well. So as you can see here, pupil C has the highest improvement and highest score in the post quiz. Well, it's a positive result. And okay, so to strengthen my research, I used the triangulation method, which includes, other than the pre and post quiz, I included semi-structured interview and field notes as well. So for the semi-structured interview, I asked them, because it's not structured, so I would elaborate the question to them as well. And as you can see here, pupil B said, um, uh, uh, I'll make it bigger. Okay, all right. People B said that the intervention was interesting, and also people C said she was excited and keen to learn after exposing them to this song. And throughout the whole intervention, where songs, the hero, and then the article songs were used, and also pupil B and C, they agreed with the research where Margarita and Joe in 2019, they say that songs establish a favorable psychological climate, reduce mental stress, activate the brain hemisphere linked to language. They induce emotional state and promote interest among learners by using songs. So they agreed to this research. And also, pupil B, he said that article song helped him answer definite and indefinite articles question. Pupil A commented that songs helped her understand and remember the input better, especially when sitting for exam. And she was more ready to learn when songs were integrated into the lesson. And these are the semi-structured interview. And from the field notes, we can see that pupil B enjoyed the song by nodding his head to the beat, while people C swayed her body to the song. Because I asked them to turn on their Zoom camera, that's why I can see from there. And so you can see that they are more musically inclined and possess higher musical intelligence. Compared to pupil A, where she said, still feel okay. Normally, I don't listen to English song. But it's okay. And we still see improvement, whether they are inclined to music or not. So as you can see, people see her improvement is the most, and also uh, she was what is she scored the highest score. You can see the influence of music and repetitive music that help them learn and to remember the grammar input better. All right, so here are the conclusion, suggestion, and implication. The conclusion: using songs to improve English grammar skills is effective. Pupils generally have positive reviews towards the intervention, and they see songs they are useful in their retention rate and their motivation to learn. Yeah, because they said, "Oh, I'm more interested to study now." Then it helps me remember when I'm sitting for exams. Also, the qualities of songs, which, for example, the repetitive lyrics and the blending of speech and grammar elements, they often advantage an effective ESL teaching and learning. All right. And songs benefited pupils with musical intelligence, such as pupil B and C, which enhance their linguistic intelligence, lower their affective filter. They are more interested to learn now, and promoted their interest and motivation. Also, increased their retention rate in learning grammar items. Right? And the suggestions is that, well, teachers, you can try songs in any subject other than English, and also other aspect rather than grammar. You can use it for vocabulary, you can use it for prepositions. Okay, and also in different subjects such as science and mathematics, the periodic table song that they've, and also equation song that are available currently on YouTube. Also, teachers, if the situation allows, you can carry the lesson in a physical setting, because I am limited to only listen and speak to them. But if you can do integrate songs in physical setting, you can teach them actions to consolidate their learning as well. Right? More action, kinesthetic. All right, and the implication. Primary ESL teachers, all of us, yeah, I encourage all of you to use songs or music in education, whether you want to teach an item or you just want to relax their mood to keep
Mm,
them focused in their reading session. Perhaps when they are doing homework, you can play some songs to relax them. Play the right songs, not the rock songs. They'll get hyper and not do their work. Yes, classical songs are the best in my opinion. And also, school administrators, if it's possible, provide facilities in classrooms such as speakers, LCD projectors, to display the lyrics or music videos or action songs videos to support the use of
mm,
songs in teaching and learning. Also, uh, headmasters and all they can invest in a fully equipped and functional music room because we want to minimize this disturbance to other classes, so we can have a music room, then we can bring the students there, let them be exposed, let them um, uh, you can arouse or provoke their innate interest towards music, because we have heard music since we're born in this world.
mm.
And that is all from me. Here are the references. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Miss Celine. It is very interesting to see how you have used songs, and to see how songs improve grammar skills among your pupils. If I was a student, I think I would have never had skipped school despite the tummy aches, the fever, and whatnot. So thank you once again. We do have a question for you. Um, are there any challenges that you have faced when you implement songs in the classroom?
I did. Because we need to filter the songs before we present it to the pupils. So some songs, they are good in presenting the grammar items, but the structure is more, how do we call that? Colloquial English, colloquial language. Oh no,
Mhm.
sorry, is it loud? That
No,
they're having an
no.
announcement. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Yes. So I have to filter, and it takes up effort, time for the teacher to
Mhm,
prepare the song, and
mhm,
also, and it's best if teachers they can equip basic music uh, theories or abilities, so they can adapt the songs or create their own songs, which I did
mhm.
with the yeah during the English language camp. Yeah, I taught them
Oh,
about verbs. So yeah, you can write your own songs, and it's even better originality.
mhm.
Yeah.
All right.
So another challenges is that mm, the lack of equipment, as I've
Mm,
stated. Yeah,
mhm,
some schools they don't have speaker and stuff, so I had to bring my own
mm.
guitar, to bring the speaker, and even the speaker is not that loud enough for the pupils. So that are some of the limitations that I faced.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Celine. Continue to be inspired and continue to inspire others around you. We wish you the very best. All right. Take care and thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you, thank you. See you when I see you.
you. Take care.
Thank you. You
Yes,
too.
Celine. So that's all. Thank you to our presenters today and the viewers for joining and being part of the internet intellectual discourse session today. Till we meet again, take care and stay safe.